We're going to study about Hatzelaponi's son, Hatzelaponis. That's his mother's name. Samson's mother's name was Hatzelaponi. And I have it written down in Hebrew. The way I found her name was in Hebrew. It's not in the Bible, but in the Hebrew history, her name, and her name means the shadow that turns or the shadow that follows me. Hatz, it's H-T-S-T-S-E-L-L-P-O-N-I, Helen Hatzelaponi. And now he is doing God's will, but dragging his heels, his spurs, his anchor, and everything else while he's doing it. He was a Nazarite from birth, but ever since he was born and became a young man, he's been breaking the law of the Nazarites. The Nazarites could not have a razor come on their hair, which he hadn't done away with that yet, but that's going to happen too. They could not drink wine or grape juice. They could not eat grapes, and they could not touch a woman. Well, a Nazarite, by the way, is not somebody from Nazareth. That's a Nazarene. A Nazarite is someone that takes the vows of a priest like they were in service. Now, the vows of a priest, when they were in service, they couldn't come near their wives, they couldn't drink wine, they couldn't eat grapes, they could not touch or eat anything that was unclean. And so far, he's been drinking wine, he's chasing women, he is eating things that were unclean. He killed a lion, and then the bees in the body of the lion, they built a nest in there, and they brought in honey. And he ate the honey and then gave his mother and father honey. And so he kind of polluted the whole house in all reality. In the last two verses of the 15th chapter says, "But God split the hollow of the place in Lehi so that the water came out, and he drank, and his strength, he revived." Now what happened, he's killed all these people with the jawbone of a donkey, and then he said, "I'm dying, I don't want to fall in the hands of these uncircumcised." And then God said, gave him water, basically. Therefore he named the place En Hakkakor, which is in Lehi to this day. So that the judge of Israel, so he judged Israel 20 years in the days of the Philistines. The Philistines means what? Remember what Philistine means? Uncivilized, uncouth barbarians. And they are Canaanites, is what they are. Now the Canaanites, we find out that God cursed them before they even existed, because he knew what they were going to be like. Now go all the way back to Genesis, the 9th chapter, where they're fighting over this over there right now in the Middle East. And the 9th chapter, verse number 24, when Noah woke from his wine, he knew that his youngest son had done to him. Now, there are, in Hebrew writings, and I read this stuff, I mean, I go back and read it, I can read it in Hebrew or whatever. But I go back, that's how I find Hatzelaponi's name. And they said that in some places that Cain, or Ham that is, had raped his mother, and this child was a child of incest, this Canaan. And they say also that Noah didn't have any more children because he castrated his father. Now this is all Hebrew legends, but it's very possible that could have happened. And so why would he have cursed him so terribly if something like that had not happened? And he said, "Cursed be Canaan." Why would he curse Canaan if it wasn't a child of incest? Why would he curse him? A servant of servants, he shall be to his brothers. He also said, "Blessed be the Lord, the God of Shem." Now, he's going to make him a slave to his brothers. Now, this is not the black race. This is not the Negro race that have been cursed here. These are the Canaanites. They're not Negroes. They're Canaanites. Blessed be the Lord, the God of Shem. Okay, Shem is Noah's, that's the faith line. There's Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And then it says, and let Canaan be his servant. How is it going to happen? And may God enlarge Japheth, and let him dwell in the tents of Shem. Now this is a prophecy that the Jews will be set aside over here in the church age, and the Jews will be set aside for all during the church age. But then they will be brought back in through the tribulation period. It will get them ready to be ruling the kingdom for 1,000 years. And Noah lived 350 years, and he said, oh, let him dwell in the tents of Shem, and let Canaan be his servant also. Now, as we go through history and civilization, we find out that the Hamites are the most, their languages are most diverse. And that took place over here at the Tower of Babel, when the languages were confused and the earth was divided. And the Hamites went throughout all the world. And some of these were part Canaanites also. And wherever they went, they brought in inventions of all kinds. They were farmers, they were everything. But the main point of all of this is not so much the sons of Ham. They were the Negro race also. But the sons of Canaan, the direct curse was on Canaan. Now, Canaan went into the land of Canaan, or Canaan. His name meant possession. They went into this land, and they built farms and villages and towns and nations, basically, and built farms and vineyards, orchards, all of this. But they became a very, 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 very wicked people. The diseases that were in the land were diseases, they were basically practicing bestiality. And the syphilis came from the sheep. And the land was absolutely inundated with STDs. Basically, sexually transmitted diseases. And someplace, the syphilis was so bad, they even called syphilis, was even termed leprosy. And God told them to go in there in some places and to completely wipe out everything, including the animals, because they were so diseased. And if they didn't do it, then they would have the diseases passed on to them. They even had staph infections and some of these diseases in the houses. And they said, well, if you've got a leprosy in the house, clean it with lye water. Lye soap, basically, is what it was. And if it keeps coming back, burn the house down and burn it up. All of this, what they did was to protect them in the land to come, and that's the land of Canaan, that's the land of Gaza today. And God gave it to Israel. Now let's go on a little bit further. We're setting the foundation for these messages now. These were accursed people because basically they were wicked. Now Samson went into Gaza. That's where we're having all the fighting today, isn't it? These Hamas. What does Hamas mean in Hebrew, Hamas? It means violence. Corruption. When Simeon and Levi went into Shechem and killed all those people there and lamed the animals, innocent animals were lamed and hamstrung. They were taken as their families, their children, their wives were taken as captives. And Jacob cursed them. And the last few words in Jacob's mind and coming out of his mouth was to curse them. You are my sons of Hamas. My sons of violence, wicked. Went to Gaza, saw hard up there, and went into her. That means he cohabited with her. And it was told to the Gazites, saying, Samson has come here, and they surrounded the place and lay in wait for him. all night at the gate of the city, and they kept on silent all night, saying, "Let us wait until morning light, and then we will kill him." Now, he's a curse. He's God has built this. He has raised this powerful man up, whether he was 275 pounds of solid muscle or a 88-pound weakling. God made him powerful. Now Samson lay until midnight, and at midnight he arose and took hold of the doors of the city gate and the two posts, and pulled them up along with the bars, and then he put them on his shoulders and carried them up into the top of the mountain, which is opposite Hebron. I've been in Hebron. Hebron is where the cave of Mephilah is, where Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and all of them are buried. Sarah was the first to be buried there. And he carried the gates all the way up there. And these are gigantic gates, and God gave him the strength to do this. After this came about, he loved a woman in the valley of Sorek, and her name was Delilah. 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 And the lords of the Philistines came unto her. Now she's a Philistine, you know. And said to her, "Entice him and see where his great strength lies, and how we may overpower him, that we may bind him to afflict him. And then we will each give you 1,100 pieces of silver." This is a lot of money now. 1,100 pieces of silver. Now she's a prostitute anyway. Now, basically, that was about $3,520 a long time ago. It's much higher than that now, as far as the wealth goes. So Delilah said to Samson, "Boy, please tell me where your strength lies, and how you may be bound to afflict you." Now, you might say this man was really dumb. Dumb, dumb, dumb. How could you trust a woman that would keep on asking you these things? I mean, here you are, you're intimate with her, you're laying in bed with her, you're loving her, he's fallen in love with this prostitute. And this prostitute is a prostitute. She's a liar. She's telling him she loves him, but she doesn't love him. And Samson said to her, "If they bind me with 7 fresh cords, that they have not been dried, and I shall become weak as any other man." Then the lords of the Philistines brought up to her 7 fresh cords that had not been dried, and she bound him with them. But basically, these are bowstrings. A bowstring is very strong. Marilyn, you used to shoot bow a lot. Yeah. You did archery, and a bowstring is strong, isn't it?
Yeah.
And back then, I saw your old bow that you had, and it was made out of real gut. It was made out of sinew and gut,
Yeah.
and it's strong. Out there right now, it's eat up with moths and stuff, but it's still there. Now, she had men lying in wait in the inner room. The inner room, by the way, that's in the bathroom. And she said to him, "Now this is the place they go to relieve themselves. That there's a room in there, and there is basically a toilet where they go in there." Now, I don't know what it was like it was when I was in the Middle East over there, but they had a room. It was a small room, and basically it was cement with a hole in it. You got up on top of it and squat down over this hole, and down underneath the carpet there was a bucket. And I'm sure that was probably something like this way back then. But they're in there in an outhouse, so to speak, in the toilet waiting for him. In the inner room, and she said to him, "The Philistines are upon you, Samson." But he snapped the cords, a string of toe snaps as it touches fire, so his strength was not discovered. Now she keeps on pestering him now. He's basically in love with this woman now. She pleases him. She pleases him. And Delilah said to Samson, "Behold, you've deceived me, Well, touche, you know. She deceived him. But he likes her. He's in love with her. And he likes being with her. He makes him happy. Behold, you have deceived me and told me lies. Now please tell me, how may you be bound? Why do you want to know how I may be bound? Why didn't he ask her that? Why? Why do you want to know this? And he already knows that because every time the Philistines come upon him, when she tells them to attack. Dumber than dirt, huh? Dumber than a box of rocks, so to speak. But God's will is being done in all of this, in all reality. It's bringing about God's will. And he said to her, if they bind me tightly with new ropes. Now, bowstrings before now it's new ropes. I told you the story about working at some refinery out there, and they wanted me to go down in this cracking tower and go down to the thing chipping the cracking out, but the ropes in this chair were junked, and the guy got killed. I wouldn't go down it. And they sent a man down it, and he didn't come out alive. The ropes broke. They were old ropes. He said, use new ropes now that never been used, which have not been used, and then I shall become weak and be like other men. Now, did he learn his lesson? No, he didn't. So Delilah took no ropes and bound him with them. Now, why in the world would she want to do this? Took the Philistines are upon you, Samson, for men were lying wait in the bathroom. And he snapped the ropes from his arms like a thread. Then Delilah said to Samson, you don't love me, you don't love me. Up to now you have deceived me and told me lies. Tell me how you may be bound. And he said to her, if you weave the 7 locks of my hair with a web and fasten it to a pin, then I shall become weak and be like all other men. Now he goes in there and they have intimate relationships and he falls asleep. You think a normal person, he's gone in there every time and the Philistines are upon you, Samson, Philistines are upon you, Samson, Philistines are upon you, Samson. You wouldn't want to lay down and rest, would you? And he woke from his sleep and pulled out the pen and the loom and the web. And she said, how can you say, I love you? How can you tell me I love you when your heart is not with me? You've deceived me these 3 times and have not told me where your great strength is. Now, she probably gets him drunk. And maybe he's drunk every time here. It came about when she pressed him daily with her words and urged him, and his soul was annoyed to death. But he liked her. She made him happy. But she is going to destroy him. So he told her all that was in his heart and said to her, a razor has never come upon my head, for I am a Nazarite. The only vow he did not break, now is going to be broken. To God from my mother's womb. If I am shaved, then my strength will leave me, and I shall become weak and like all other men. Now that means something, doesn't it? What do you mean he'll be weak like all other men? Was he 6 foot tall? Was he 5'5"? What was he? Was he a Armstrong? Atlas? Was he a Arnold Schwarzenegger? What was he? Mr. Universe? Or was he just a common man with little old straight arms, and but God, the power of God would come upon him and make him like a giant. And Delilah saw that he had told her all that was in his heart. She sent and called for the lords of the Philistines. Oh, she loves him, doesn't she? Saying, come up once more. Now, they promised her all this silver. Samson could have gone out and took it away from them and given it to her. But she didn't love Samson. She didn't love him. he probably would have given her anything that she wanted. And he could have attained it also. But she didn't love him. Then the lords of the Philistines came up to her and brought the money in their hands. He could have taken the money. He could have given the money to her, but she didn't love him. She was a Philistine too. She hated Samson, but she was using her charm to deceive him. She made him sleep on her knees and called for a man and had him shave off all 7 locks of his hair. Then she began to afflict him. She began to beat on him. He's less than a woman now. He's less than a woman. And all his strength had left him. He was a 98-pound weakling now for sure. And she said, Philistines are upon you, Samson. And he woke from his sleep. He said, I will go out as other times and shake off myself free. But he did not know that the Lord had departed from him. The last vow was broken. Then the Philistines seized him and they gouged out his eyes. They blinded him. And they brought him down to Gaza. Right where we're having all that trouble over there in the Middle East today. In the land of Canaan. Not Philistine, not Palestine, but the land of Canaan. The land of Canaan that was given to Israel by God's decree. And he bound him with bronze chains. And he became a grinder in the prison. In other words, he did woman's work in the prison. He humiliating work. He became a grinder. They put him out there grinding wheat, grinding barley, like a woman's job would be. However, the hair of his head began to grow again after it was shaved off. Now the lords of the Philistines assembled to offer a great sacrifice to Dagon. Remember, what is Dagon? What's Dagon? That's the fish god. Remember that what happened over there in the book of Jonah? Dagon. To Dagon, their god, and rejoice, for they said, our God has given Samson, our enemy, into our hands. Their God didn't do it. There was a woman there named Delilah that did it. Their God had nothing to do with it. When the people saw him, they praised their God, for they saw. They said, our God has given our enemy into our hands, even the destroyer of our country, who has slain many of us. And it so happened that they were in high spirits. They were dancing around all over the place to their music. And they said, call for Samson that he may amuse us, that he may dance for us. Remember in the cowboy movies you saw people come in there and they have this guy there and they start shooting at his feet and making him dance? Well, that's what's happening right here. They're not shooting 6-shooters. Colonel Colt had them. They're probably poking at him, shooting arrows and whatever. And you know, he can't see anything coming. Maybe they're poking his feet with spears or goads. So they called for Samson from the prison. And he entertained them, and they made him stand between the pillars. Now the pillars are what we call the foundation stones of this temple. All the weight of the whole temple roof is on these foundation stones. Now foundation stone, by the way, they would take like a marble or a granite stone, and they would take it and ground it off and make it square, and then they would take and polish it to make sure there was no fractures in it at all, because all the weight of a building were upon it. And Jesus is the foundation stone, not Peter, but Jesus is the stone which the church is built upon. He was the stone that was rejected, remember? And happened that they were in high spirits. They called for him, and he amused them. And Samson said to a boy who was standing by, holding his hand, let me feel the pillars on which the whole house rests, that I may lean against them. Now, he's going to take the foundation stones, the pillars that hold up the roof, and he's going to destroy these people. Matthew 16 and 18, 1 Peter 2, 4 through 8, talks about the foundation stones. Now the house was full of men and women, and all the lords of the Philistines were there, and there were about 3,000 men and women were on the roof looking on while Samson was amusing them. This is a stone building now, a stone building. You can see those on the Roman road all throughout the Middle East and Europe and Asia Minor. These old buildings that had basically, they were all built out of stone, cut stone and fitted together. Now Matthew 16 and 18, he said, Jesus said, "You're Peter, a little stone, but upon this foundation rock, Petra, I shall be building my church, and the gates of hell shall not wrestle her down." Now the house was full of women and children. Then Samson called upon Jehovah and said, "Jehovah God, Jehovah Elohim, please remember me and please strengthen me just this one time, O God, that I may at once be avenged of the Philistines for my 2 eyes." Remember, he couldn't even see the people there. He could hear them, but he couldn't see them. And Samson grasped the 2 middle pillars on which the house rested, and he braced himself against them, and the one with his right hand and the other with his left. Now the power of God was in this 98-pound weakling, or whatever he was. And Samson said, "Let me die with the Philistines." And he bent all of his might, so that the house fell upon the lords and all the people who were in it. So the dead whom he killed in his death were more than those whom he killed in his life. In Hebrews, the 11th chapter, it talks about Samson. Then his brothers and his father's household came and down and took him, and brought him up, and buried him between Zorah and Eshcol in the tomb of Manoah his father. Thus he judged Israel for 20 years. What a story, huh? The story of a man that was called of God. Well, the first call was to his mother, Hatzelaponi. And he told her that you're going to have a son. She was barren. Now we find out that he had other brothers. It must have opened her womb, and she had plenty. But this was the one important one. This was the prophesied son that God told her. Remember, the story is dreams, visions, and hypnosis in the Bible. God appeared to her. Maybe she was the first time in a dream or whatever, but he appeared to her. And she saw the pre-incarnate Christ. She had a theophany. Now this is all before the Bible's written. Now that we have the Bible, we don't need to. We got all of the evidence we need. We believe by faith. Hebrews 11th chapter. We believe by faith that all this happened, and it did, historically and spiritually. It all happened. By faith, his mother raised him up. All the time she was pregnant with him, she didn't eat anything unclean. She didn't eat a grape. She didn't drink wine or anything. All the time that she was carrying this boy. Otherwise, she could have drank grape juice or eaten grapes or whatever. Grapes are a great form of nourishment back then, especially raisins. But she abstained from all of it. She believed God, and she had Manoah, her husband. She told God, "Please appear to my husband," and he did. They told him what to do. He said, "I want to know what to do with this boy." Well, they told him what to do with him. But when he come of age, she sure raised him right. But when he come of age, he made his own decision. God used him, but he made his own decisions. You children out there, wayward children of parents sometimes. Your parents raised you right, raised you in church. They gave you the best they could. Sometimes you didn't have it like I didn't. I didn't have anything like that. I was raised by a bunch of drunk Indians. Other drunk Indians, let's put it that way. I grew up and started to drink like them, and I realized I didn't want to go that way. God had something better in my life than that. Wherever you are, in whatever condition you're in, whether you're raised by atheists or pagans or whatever, you and God have a personal relationship if you'll call upon Him. Jesus Christ died for the sins of all mankind. And if you lay claim to that, you can be one with Him forevermore. These people here were all pagans. And yet, in the land of Canaan, there were some people that believed. We have Ruth the Moabitess. We have Rahab the harlot. We have the husband of Bathsheba. We have others that believed. Others that said we become hewers of wood and carriers of water. God, those that were willing, those that heard the message, they believed to God. Our Father, I send this message out for your honor and glory. Please use it wherever it goes. Please forgive me where I failed you. Touch the people's lives out there where it goes throughout all the world. Build them up in faith and in love in your word. In Jesus' name I pray.